The moon hung low in the dark sky as Jack, a fresh-faced security guard, stepped into the eerie silence of the office building. It was his first night on the job, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The stories he had heard from the veteran guards rattled in his mind, but he dismissed them as mere exaggerations. Jack's footsteps echoed through the empty hallways as he made his rounds. The building, once a bustling hub of activity during the day, now lay dormant and desolate. He glanced at his watch. It was just past midnight. The building seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. As he approached the stairwell, a gust of wind slammed the door shut with a thunderous bang. Jack's heart raced as he fumbled for his flashlight. He cautiously opened the door and ascended the stairs, his footsteps masked by the howling wind outside. Each step he took seemed to magnify the silence around him. On the third floor, Jack noticed a flickering light coming from one of the offices. He approached it, his heart pounding in his chest. Inside, he found an empty room, devoid of any sign of life. The flickering light was coming from a malfunctioning fluorescent tube. He let out a sigh of relief, convinced it was nothing more than faulty wiring. Continuing his patrol, Jack's unease only grew. Strange shadows danced in the corners of his vision, and he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The building seemed to shift and creak, whispering secrets he couldn't decipher. He dismissed it as his imagination playing tricks on him and pressed on. As he reached the basement, a chill ran down his spine. The air grew dense, and an overwhelming sense of dread washed over him. He hesitated for a moment but gathered his courage and descended into the dark abyss. The only source of light came from the dimly lit emergency signs, casting long, eerie shadows across the walls. Jack's footsteps echoed eerily as he walked through the labyrinthine corridors of the basement. Suddenly, a loud crash resonated through the silence, making him jump. He turned towards the sound and shone his flashlight, revealing a toppled stack of boxes. Sweat trickled down his brow as he cautiously approached the fallen boxes. It seemed as if someone, or something, had intentionally knocked them over. His heart pounding, Jack quickened his pace, eager to leave the basement behind. But as he reached the exit door, he froze. A figure stood before him, bathed in darkness. It was tall and gaunt, its eyes reflecting a malevolent gleam. Fear gripped Jack's chest as he stared into the abyss of its gaze. Without warning, the figure lunged at him, its fingers extending like claws. Jack screamed and stumbled backward, crashing into a shelf. The figure vanished, leaving Jack gasping for breath. He clutched his chest, his heart racing as he tried to make sense of what had just happened. Determined to uncover the truth, Jack pressed on, his curiosity overpowering his fear. He searched the office building high and low, looking for answers. The more he delved, the stranger things became. Documents shifted on their own, the sound of footsteps echoed through empty hallways, and whispers filled the air. Late one night, as Jack explored the building's archives, he stumbled upon an old newspaper article. It chronicled a tragic event that occurred years ago when the building was first constructed. A group of construction workers had perished during a mysterious accident, their bodies never recovered. It was said that their restless spirits haunted the building ever since. Chills ran down Jack's spine as he realized the truth. The stories he had heard were real. The strange occurrences, the shadows, and the figure that had attacked him in the basement. He now understood why the veteran guards warned him to be vigilant. With newfound determination, Jack sought a way to appease the restless spirits. He reached out to a local paranormal investigator who specialized in such matters. Together, they performed a series of rituals and ceremonies, attempting to calm the vengeful souls that roamed the building. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the eerie occurrences began to subside. The building regained its calm, and the restless spirits seemed to find peace. Jack felt a sense of accomplishment, knowing he had helped bring closure to the tormented souls. Months passed, and Jack continued his duties as a security guard, but the experience had left an indelible mark on him. He became more attuned to the supernatural, recognizing the thin veil between the living and the dead. As the years went by, Jack became a mentor to new security guards, passing on his knowledge and cautionary tales. He warned them to trust their instincts and to never dismiss the stories they might hear, for sometimes, the line between reality and the supernatural can blur in the most unexpected of places. The autumn leaves crunched beneath Emma's feet as she hurriedly made her way home. It had been another long day at work, and all she wanted was to retreat to the safety and comfort of her apartment. However, a growing unease had been plaguing her for weeks, a sense of being constantly watched and followed. She couldn't shake off the feeling that someone, or something, was lurking in the shadows, just waiting for the right moment to strike. As Emma stepped into her dimly lit apartment, she immediately locked the door behind her trembling hand struggling to find the keyhole. The sound of the lock clicking into place offered her little solace, as she knew deep down that it would provide little protection against the persistent presence that haunted her every waking moment. Night after night, Emma's sleep became plagued with restless nightmares. She would often awaken drenched in sweat, her heart pounding in her chest, only to find the silhouette of a tall, creepy figure standing at the edge of her bed. Its piercing gaze would paralyze her, leaving her unable to move or scream for help. She would lie there, paralyzed by fear, as the figure slowly approached, its twisted smile sending shivers down her spine. Emma's once vibrant and social life began to crumble as the weeks went by. The constant terror and the lack of sleep had taken a toll on her mental and physical well-being. Her friends grew concerned as she started canceling plans and isolating herself from the world. She could no longer distinguish reality from her hallucinations, and the line between the two blurred with each passing day. One evening, as Emma sat on her couch, clutching a cup of lukewarm tea, she saw the figure peering at her through the window. Its dark eyes seemed to penetrate her soul, mocking her sanity. She closed her eyes, desperately hoping that when she opened them again, the figure would be gone. But when she dared to look, it was still there, a sinister smile stretching across its face. Fueled by a mix of fear and defiance, Emma decided to seek help. She scheduled an appointment with a renowned psychiatrist, Dr. Richard Stevens, hoping that he could offer some respite from her torment. The waiting room of Dr. Stevens' office felt suffocating, the pale blue walls closing in on her. The air was heavy with the weight of her anxiety as she flipped through outdated magazines, her palms clammy and her heart racing. When her name was finally called, Emma stepped into Dr. Stevens' office, hoping to find solace in his reassuring presence. His salt and pepper hair and gentle demeanor immediately put her at ease. She poured out her fears and experiences, the relentless stalking, the nightmarish encounters, and the slow erosion of her grasp on reality. Dr. Stevens listened attentively, his face a mask of empathy. He assured her that he would do everything in his power to help her. He prescribed medication to ease her anxiety and arranged for her to start therapy sessions. Emma left the office that day with a glimmer of hope, a flicker of belief that she could regain control over her life. But as the days passed, the figure's presence only intensified. It followed her everywhere, lurking in the corners of her vision, a constant reminder of her fragile state of mind. The therapy sessions offered little relief, as even the comforting presence of Dr. Stevens couldn't shield her from the relentless torment she endured. In a desperate attempt to escape her stalker, Emma sought refuge in a secluded cabin in the woods. She hoped that the isolation would provide a temporary respite, a chance to find clarity in the midst of the chaos that had consumed her life. But her sanctuary soon turned into a sinister nightmare. The figure materialized outside the cabin, its dark silhouette blending seamlessly with the shadows. Emma's screams echoed through the night, but there was no one around to hear her cries. The figure's wicked laughter reverberated in her ears, a haunting symphony of malevolence. Days turned into weeks, and Emma's once vibrant spirit faded away, replaced by a hollow shell of her former self. The torment never ceased, even when she returned to the familiarity of her apartment. The line between her mind and the real world had become so blurred that she could no longer distinguish between her hallucinations and the physical presence of the stalker. In a moment of sheer desperation, Emma reached out to Dr. Stevens, pleading for him to help her escape this living nightmare. He recommended an institution renowned for treating severe mental disorders, a place where she could find the specialized care she needed. Emma agreed, her hope reignited by the prospect of finally finding relief. The nightmarish hospital for the insane loomed before her as she entered its forbidding gates. The sterile white corridors seemed to stretch infinitely, and the flickering fluorescent lights buzzed ominously overhead. The patients shuffled along the hallways, their vacant stares mirroring Emma's own despair. Days turned into months, and Emma became a prisoner within her own mind. The stalker's presence was no longer confined to her waking hours, it invaded her dreams, her thoughts, and her every waking moment. She was trapped in a perpetual state of terror, her grasp on reality slipping further away with each passing day. Dr. Stevens, now her only lifeline, visited her regularly, offering what little comfort he could. He tried different medications, experimental therapies, and unorthodox techniques, all in an attempt to alleviate her suffering. But the stalker's hold on Emma's mind proved unbreakable. And so, Emma remains trapped within the walls of the nightmarish hospital, forever caught in the twisted clutches of her tormentor. Her once bright eyes now vacant, her voice silenced by the depths of her psychological nightmare. The figure, tall, creepy, and evil, looms over her, a constant reminder of the life she once had and the shattered fragments of her sanity. And as the days turn into years, Emma's mind becomes an eternal playground for her tormentor, lost in the abyss of her own fractured reality.